this video, we're talking about my top 5 recommendations for comic book investments for the year 2025. And we got to talk about some definitions and the current state of the market before we hop into the list. This is strictly an investment type video. We're just focusing on the values of the books, the past values, the future values based on, events and pop culture that could impact it. So it's an investment video. And it's also a big spender edition. Okay, we're going to talk about some big boy books here, and I'm going to follow up with a budget-friendly version of this, top 5 investments on a budget in the future. So if you're interested in that, make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button. In so doing, it will enter you to win a free slab. We do a free slab giveaway every single month here on Bryce Comics. If you subscribe, comment, and like this video, you're entered to win. And we also have a free giveaway over at brycecomics.com. If you subscribe to the newsletter over there, tons of new inventory coming in the new year, some really exciting stuff, so you don't want to miss out. Make sure you're subscribed to that newsletter at brycecomics.com. We also have to do a couple of giveaway announcements here for the month of December. Congratulations to Dan De La Torre, 1870. Dan, you won Venom number 3, 4th print, the first full appearance of Knoll. I like to call this the poor man's version of Venom number 3 because it's a little bit more affordable that it's the 4th printing. And then we also have a winner for the newsletter. Congratulations to Aaron Shigley. Aaron, you won this beautiful 1977 copy of X-Men 104 and a 9.4, which I also affectionately refer to as the poor man's version of X-Men number 1 because it's almost an exact cover homage of X-Men number 1. So as far as the current state of the comic book market, we have been on a decline for years now. We had that huge boom that everybody knows about during COVID times, and we've been correcting for years. And it does seem that we still have some more correction to do. Prices still seem to be slightly trending down, but I do believe that in the year 2025 is when we'll start to see the rebound, when we'll start to see prices consistently and steadily go back up, which for the long term, they absolutely will go back up. I mean, if you look 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead, the prices of comics, that if you were to buy today, I think you would be doing very well for yourself 10 years from now. And that's just one of the things, this is an investment video. We're talking about investments. And so it's something to keep in mind is that nobody really knows where the bottom is going to be. Who knows what's going to happen in the macroeconomic world of economics. Maybe we go down way farther than we thought we were going to go down. Maybe we go back up tomorrow. Maybe there's another unforeseen X factor COVID type situation that causes prices to spike. Who knows? Nobody. Nobody can predict the future. That's the point. And so take all of this with a grain of salt. So let's hop into this list. We're going to start off here with Strange Tales number 110. This is the first appearance of Doctor Strange, and I can't believe how far down prices come for this book. I mean, we saw a huge surge with the lineup of COVID and the comic book boom and the release of a major Doctor Strange movie. And so we saw this massive spike that was even more exaggerated than a lot of these other grails. And in my opinion, it may have overcorrected a little. There's also some other key significance and other cool things going on with this book from a collectability standpoint. It's also the first appearance of the Ancient One, former Sorcerer Supreme, and it's the first appearance of Wong, Doctor Strange's assistant, and the first cameo appearance of Nightmare. But let's take a look at prices real quick. You can buy a very respectable grade of this book at 4.5. The most recent sale was under $2,000. Now, to give a little perspective on that, the peak recorded price of this book was $7,200. So, I mean, that is well under 60% off of its high. It has just come down surprisingly. And, the one thing that's holding this book back, I believe, is the cover. It doesn't feature Doctor Strange on the cover. It's kind of got a lot going on. But if you are a comic book lover and a collector, I think there's some things that you can really find appealing about this cover. Primarily, Paste Pot Pete here on the cover. Paste Pot Pete has got to be one of the finest of B-tier villains, probably only surpassed by maybe Asbestos Man or some other B-tier villains. Leave a note down in the comment below. Who is your number one best B-tier villain? But this B-tier villain carries an actual pail or pot of paste or glue. attached to a hose, attached to his gun, and his superpower is to shoot superheroes with glue, forever immobilizing them. How could they possibly beat Paste Pot Pete? So that's what I think is kind of cool about this book. If you can find a way to love the character of Paste Pot Pete, you can get past the fact that Doctor Strange isn't on the cover. And then you know that this book, I mean, for comic book collectors, this cover is very recognizable. I mean, you immediately, people that have been in the hobby for any amount of time immediately see this and associate it with the first appearance of Doctor Strange. So there's a lot of awesome talking points with your friends. I mean, if you're going to spend this much money, if you're going to invest this much money and have this thing, on your wall, hopefully away from UV light or anything like that, what a conversation piece to talk about Paste Pot Pete and the first appearance of Doctor Strange, who is not going anywhere, which is why I think this is such a great investment. Is the fever and the FOMO over the character will happen in years to come because he's going to continue to show up in Marvel MCU movies. So I think a good time to buy in for this book, especially at those respectable mid grades under $2,000. I don't think you can go wrong there. And Happy New Year to everyone. It's so crazy that we're on 2025. I've been so busy, I haven't even had time to reflect on 2024 yet. But I don't even know if I will have time because there's so many awesome things in store for 2025. But I just can't thank you enough for all the support in 2024. And I do believe that 2025 is going to be the best year yet and more great years to come. Thank you. I hope you all had a great holiday season. And let's get back to the video. Next on the list, surprisingly, is Fantastic Four #1. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about with Fantastic Four #1 and one other book on this list is I feel like Fantastic Four #1 was one of the last books to correct, right? So, it wasn't that this comic book surge happened and every single book went up overnight. Some books went up faster than others, and then the others caught up. And we're talking about a short time frame because it feels like in retrospect it was overnight, but there were some books that went up faster than others, and then eventually everything caught up. And then there were some books that crashed faster than others, and then eventually everything caught up. And I feel like Fantastic Four #1 was one of the last books to correct. Some of these Silver Age grails really hung on there to those COVID numbers before they finally forced the economy or the economic factors forced collectors to capitulate and, accept a decrease in value here. And Fantastic Four #1 is also considered by some people to be the most important Silver Age comic book, right? And it's certainly in the conversation. Other books are in that conversation, like Amazing Fantasy 15 and Showcase #4. Showcase #4 being referred to often as the first Silver Age book, and then Fantastic Four being referred to often as the most important because it's the first Marvel family, and it kicked off and launched the Marvel Age of Comics, as quoted here on Key Collector. It's the first team appearance and origin of the Fantastic Four, including Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and The Thing. And of course, we know that a Fantastic Four movie is right around the corner, which it does not even come into this conversation because the prices that we're seeing, I don't know that the movies are really affecting it. I think that this was just a good investment because of the key significance and just overall importance of this book. I'm not even referring to the fact that there's a movie coming out soon. However, there will probably be some good buying times if you are simply an investor and you're just looking to buy at the opportune time and sell at the opportune time. I would imagine there will be an opportune time right around when the movie comes out to make some profit on this book if you were to buy it in today's market. If we come over here, we see the 2.0 had a most recent sale of 7,230, and you can also see there's a little bit of a spread here. Just in the month of November, 2 copies sold, one for 7,200 was the low and the high for 11,400. So the advice here is to be patient, be picky, keep an eye on those auction houses. Try to avoid a buy it now if you're looking to invest. You want to hit those auction houses for investments. So that low sale, most recent of 7,200, is down off of its peak of 19,750. Also, well under 60% correction from the peak for what that's worth. All right, next on the list, we have Journey into Mystery number 83. This, of course, is the first full appearance and cover appearance of Thor. It's an epic Jack Kirby cover to boot. It's the introduction of Thor's hammer. I'm not going to say the name on camera. I could say it in conversation, but whenever I say it on camera, I get it wrong, and I just get lit up in the comment section. So it's the first introduction of Thor's hammer. The first team appearance of the Cronins, and the first appearance of Donald Blake, the human host of Thor. And this is, of all the grails that come through my shop, I feel like it comes through less than the others. And if you go and you look at the census, I mean, Journey into Mystery is one of those runs where just in issue number 83, it's lower on the census as far as like prevalence of this book. So it would make sense that it comes up for sale less often. If we go over and look at GP analysis, we can see that a super respectable grade for this book, a 5.0. I mean, you're doing well for yourself if you can afford a 5.0 of this book, but the most recent sale is $9,600, which is down over 50% from its highest recorded sale of over $20,000. Thor, of course, is a character that is going to continue to show up and lead the MCU movies for years to come. He's not going anywhere. A great investment, a fun place to park your money, in my opinion, if you enjoy Silver Age comics. Next on the list, we have Uncanny X-Men number 1. Now, I switched Amazing Spider-Man number 1 with X-Men number 1. I was going to put Amazing Spider-Man number 1 in this book, in this video, but I didn't want to have two Spider-Man keys. I wanted to cover all the bases because there are a lot of people that X-Men number 1 is their holy grail. There is a lot of mutant collectors, X-Men collectors, and all of the spin-offs of the mutants, which all started right here with X-Men number 1 with an epic cover. The first team appearance of the X-Men: Cyclops, Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl, Iceman, Angel, Beast, and Professor X. Also the first appearance of Magneto, and the Homo Superior concept was coined by Magneto to describe humans born with special abilities introduced in this issue. And of course, the rest is history. I mean, there have been thousands upon thousands of spin-offs and stories created just from the ideas that were sparked in this issue. So that's why I wanted to put it on this list, is that it is one of the books that people jump to first when markets start to surge. You know, when they think, oh, this is a great time to buy comics, I'm going to go for my grail. And a lot of people, that grail is X-Men number 1. So that's why I put it on the list over Amazing Spider-Man number 1. And you can get a 3.5 for $6,100. I remember buying a 3.0 not too long ago for $8,000. And here it is at $6,100, 90-day average $6,058. And that is off of its peak recorded price of $17,000. So, I mean, what is that? Like 70% down? I can't do math on the fly. And the final book on the list, my number 1 recommendation for 2025 is Amazing Fantasy number 15 with a bunch of qualifiers here, okay? I'm talking about low-grade copies that present well at the right price, all right? And the reason that I recommend that is because it's almost impossible to find those things. It's almost impossible to find a low-grade copy of Amazing Fantasy 15 for a good price. And the reason is this is, in my opinion, the most coveted Silver Age comic book in the world. And most collectors, if you were to ask all collectors, the biggest percentage of them would say Amazing Fantasy 15 is their holy grail. Of course, you're going to get all kinds of answers, but I think most of the answers would be Amazing Fantasy 15 tops all the rest. That's the book that I am most interested in. And because of that, low-grade copies are the sharkiest waters because, you know, it's so expensive that there's just way more competition for these low-grade copies. And if we come over here and see a 2.0 last sold for $19,000, 1.8 also sold for $19,000, a 1.5 sold for $15,900, and a 1.0 sold for $14,000. Now, the reason I put this as number 1 is I am currently in the market for an Amazing Fantasy 15. I need one for a future project coming up, and I cannot find one with a $20,000 budget for a fair price. I can overpay for sure, but I cannot find an AF-15 fairly priced for $20,000 or under. I found a 2.0 copy. I offered $20,000. The last sale was $19,000. I offered $20,000, and they were like, I have offers for $21,500. No thanks. I found a 1.0, which I passed on for $14,000 because there was a low sale, which brings up another very important topic when it comes to low-grade grails and all grails is presentation. It's huge. It plays a big factor in the value of books. We're talking like for a low-grade AF-15, you could see a difference of 30 to 40% in the price because of the way it presents. And the example that I had here is there was what I affectionately refer to as the Mike copy. So there was an AF-15 1.0 that sold on eBay for $9,000 and some change, and it was a really beat up copy, and it had the word Mike. Somebody wrote it in crayon over the front of the book or pen or something. You just see Mike before you see anything else. We call it the Mike copy, and it sold for just over $9,000. And some of the other sales were around $14,000. And so when I was on the hunt for this book, someone reached out to me with a 1.0 and they wanted $14,000, and I just saw the $9,000 sale, which has since gone away. So I think what happened is somebody bought the $9,000 Mike copy on eBay and then didn't follow through with payment, and it fell off. And so somebody got it for $9,000, won it at auction or whatever it was, and then didn't even follow through on it. They didn't even want it for $9,000. Even though they committed to it, but that's a different topic. When other copies are selling for $14,000 or $15,000, so that's how much presentation comes into play here. And so I went back and I offered the gentleman the $14,000 after I just struck out everywhere else, and it had already sold, and he sold it for $15,700. So you just can't find copies. We come over here. This is one I offered $20,000, I believe, and he said no. He's got one for $21,500, which, by the way, if he has an offer for $21,500, is well over recent sales. I mean, and he still doesn't want to take $21,500. And the reason another reason why this is my number one, choice, low grade AF-15s that present well, is because when so many collectors have this as their top holy grail, a lot of times they overpay for it. If you want to get a 2.0, you might, like this guy that won't take less than, he won't even take 10 or 20% over. If you really want it, you might overpay for it, right? And so then when you go to sell it, you're not willing to take current FMV. And it just is like this self-perpetuating thing that it's just impossible to find these books at a fair price unless it's at auctions. And there's one other thing I want to talk about that's very, very important about AF-15s and all of these grails. If you come over here to the currently listed stuff, we have a 1.0 listed $1,000. It's an auction. This guy has 0% feedback, 100% without a doubt. This is a scammer, not a real book. If you buy this book, you're going to have your money tied up for a long time. So there's scams galore. And in fact, this is an actual copy that just sold. This is what they do. When a big grail sells, they just take that photo and make a listing with no feedback. I went through the whole process of trying to figure out what the scam was here. I did a whole video on it. You can go and watch it, where I just got my money back. It's the weirdest thing, but it happens all the time. It continues to happen. And if you click on it, it says, we looked everywhere, we can't find this page. So this has likely already been flagged or taken down. So some interesting points of discussion there for this segment of best investments for 2025. Stay tuned for the best investments on a budget and a ton of other content that I do on this channel all the time about non-investment related things, non-money related things, collecting, and the joy of this hobby. That's what we do here on Bryce Comics. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like for your chance to win a free slab, and head over to brycecomics.com to get fair prices on tons of great books, always new inventory coming through. If you sign up for the newsletter while you're there, you're entered to win a free slab each and every month. We usually have Whatnot shows every Friday, slab shows with $1 starts, tons of giveaways, your chance to win $1,000. So if you use the link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase on Whatnot, you can stop by, pick up a free book, hang out with other comic book collectors, and look at cool books on a Friday night. I think it's a fun way to spend a Friday night. Happy New Year to all of you. Can't wait for what 25 has in store. Thank you for all the support in 24, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.